Good afternoon, everyone. We will get started. So, hello. My name is Paloma Hill, and with me is Marcy Skinesny. Marcy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. We're excited to give you some more information about the digital SAT. For some of you, maybe your first exposure to the test. Others may have some exposure, but hopefully we'll get a little bit more detail. My name is Marcy Skinesny. I'm a Customer Success Manager for K-12 programs with the Princeton Review, and I'm joined by Paloma Hill. Paloma is our Director of Customer Success for K-12 Test Prep. Paloma and I are both happy to be a resource for you and for your students as you make the transition to the digital SAT and along on your pathway towards your journey to college. So our first topic that we'd like to talk about tonight will focus mostly on the differences between the SAT that you may have heard of in the past and the new digital SAT. So let's dig in a little bit more to what the changes actually mean for you. The SAT is being offered in both digital and traditional paper and pencil tests through the rest of 2023. Beginning in March 2024, the only format available will be the new digital SAT. Students will be taking the test on a computer and there will be no more need for Scantrons. That's what was most talked about when the change was announced by the College Board, and rightfully so. But you also need to understand what it means when we say the SAT is now a digital test. Most significantly, the SAT is going digital, not online. In the wake of the COVID pandemic, and especially the remote learning caused by the pandemic, the College Board expressed interest in making an online SAT, and they even held online advanced placement testing in May 2020. It did not go well, to say the least. The proctoring was difficult, students with internet issues could not submit exams, and there was general confusion about the changes to the exams. So for a 2-month emergency switch to online testing, it worked well enough though. But it also made clear that the College Board would have difficulty making an online SAT. Almost 2 years later, the College Board has finally announced plans for a computer-based SAT. This new SAT operates from a custom-built digital exam application, which is made by the College Board for the specific purpose of offering the computer test. When you begin thinking about what you will face in a digital SAT, it's important to know what that custom-built application was built to do. So let's get an overview of the digital testing rollout. As you can see here, the rollout has been staggered. In spring 2023, the College Board rolled out the SAT for international students, but still used paper and pencil for the PSAT for all students and for the SAT for US students. Then in the fall of this year, they've continued the digital SAT for international students, and they've added the digital PSAT for all students, while continuing the paper and pencil SAT for US-based students. In the spring is when we see all of the tests going fully digital for all of the students.
Online practice tests have been around for years, even from the College Board itself. Since 2020, College Board has been adapting its college readiness exams to accommodate the new needs for a more digital age. It could do this because graduate exams like the GRE, GMAT, MCAT, and LSAT, which are used for graduate, medical, and law school admissions, have offered students opportunities to take computer-based tests for quite some time. As a result, the College Board created a custom-built digital exam application for a few key reasons. Students can take the digital SAT on a laptop or tablet. The College Board has made the exam application so it will work on both. A computer is not necessary for students to take the exam, and this provides the ability for more students to take the SAT and shows that the College Board wants to make the test more accessible for students to take. That is also why the College Board says that the digital SAT can be taken on a student's device, one provided from their school, or one even borrowed from the College Board themselves. The College Board is allowing students to use a device they are familiar with to make them more comfortable on test day, but they are also making sure not having a laptop or tablet does not prevent students from taking the test. Most importantly, and probably the best aspect for students, is that the digital SAT will not end if a student has internet issues. The College Board promises that they will receive scores from students even if internet cuts out halfway through an exam. The digital SAT will keep going without internet access. So once a student starts the exam, they will be able to continue. In fact, if a student loses power on their device, the College Board is saying that the student can simply plug it back in and pick up where they left off. But taking the test on a laptop or computer isn't the only way that the SAT is changing. The digital SAT will be a streamlined SAT. Most significantly, the SAT will become a 2-hour and 24-minute test instead of a 3-hour test. This is huge. The time students will be sitting in a testing site taking the exam is reduced by a third. Taking the SAT will take up much less time in a student's day, especially because many of the administrative aspects will be done ahead of time. This will also make SAT school days a little less disruptive to school students. Reducing test time is an unqualified win for students. Compared to more than a 3-hour test, just a 2-hour test will have shorter sections, fewer overall questions, and reduced testing fatigue. Those are all huge challenges that are less daunting on the new SAT. At the Princeton Review, our prep programs are based on full-length practice tests, and this is a key reason that we know students often struggle with just making it through every question and maintaining focus for multiple hours. So a shorter test helps with that particular challenge. As we mentioned, computer adaptive tests are nothing new. While they come in a few different varieties, all computer adaptive tests present different questions to different students based on that individual student's performance. This is why the College Board broke down each section into 2 models. How students perform on their first module will determine what questions students see in the second, and here's how that looks in practice. If you do well, the second module for that section will be mostly hard questions. Now, if you miss more, the second module for that section will be mostly easy questions. Here's what makes this process so tricky. You really cannot know how you did on the first module based on the questions you get on the second. Notice all of these say mostly on their difficulty levels. The College Board itself says that the second module will have higher difficulty or lower difficulty questions on average. You're likely to see easy questions in the second module, even if you did really well in the first. And what is difficult or easy for you may be more difficult or easy for other test takers. You can't tell how well you've done based on what questions you see. A computer adaptive test is what allows the College Board to streamline the SAT. A computer adaptive test can show more questions and more differentiation between students with fewer questions because students get sorted mid-test.
So far, we've talked a lot about the differences in the timing and in the format of the digital SAT, but that's not all that's changing. The College Board has also adjusted some of the types of questions as well as the content you will see on the test going forward. So let's talk a little bit about how. In the past, the SAT has had 3 main testing sections. You would see reading questions, writing questions, and then math questions. The digital SAT has combined the reading and writing sections into just one section. When you sit down for the digital SAT, you will have just 2 sections, a reading and writing section and a math section. This summer, the College Board revealed the exact specifications of each section. The reading and writing section will be divided into 2 modules. Each module will have 25 operational questions, meaning those that you will be scored on, and 2 pre-test questions, which are essentially experimental questions on the testing application that will not be scored. All the reading and writing questions are multiple choice questions, with every question having just one short reading passage. You will have 32 minutes to answer all of the questions in each of the reading and writing modules. For the math section, you will also see 2 modules. In each one, you will have 20 operational questions and then 2 pre-test questions. The math section will have 75% multiple choice questions and 25% student-produced response questions. You will have 35 minutes to answer all of the questions in each of the math modules. You may look at this chart and wonder why the sections are divided into modules. Why won't you take just one 64-minute, 50-question reading and writing section and just one 70-minute, 40-question math section? Well, there's a simple reason, and it all goes back to the fact that the SAT is becoming computer adaptive. So your performance on the first modules will determine which questions you'll see on the second modules. The content on the new digital SAT is similar to what you've seen on the traditional test. The main difference here is that the questions are formatted a little bit differently. The reading and writing modules will feature shorter reading passages, which will be easier and faster to read and analyze. The math modules will have questions that are more straightforward and more concise.
While there are substantial changes coming on the new test, there will still be universal tips and tricks that students can learn to help them get their best scores. Before we discuss the strategies for individual questions, we should talk about an overall strategy for the test. We have lots of general test-taking strategies to teach at the Princeton Review for the SAT, but also for the PSAT, ACT, AP exams, and other computer adaptive tests. One of the strategies we teach in our courses is called Letter of the Day. A blank answer is a wrong answer on the SAT, which means you should never leave an answer choice blank. Even if you're making a completely random guess, put something down, and you'll be a much more successful student if you know how to guess the right way. I want to show you two approaches by making random guesses. Students often waste their time trying to guess right, even if they have no idea what the question is asking, or even if they don't have time to complete every question. There's a simple solution for guessing on the SAT. Now first, let's take a moment. Which of the examples do you think scores higher, straight down one column or mixing it up? So between the two, it's actually the first strategy. Well, with just 10 questions, it won't work as consistently, but over many questions, should you use the approach on the left. This is what we call choosing letter of the day. When you sit down for the SAT, always pick a letter, A, B, C, or D, and that'll be what you will guess when you don't know the answer or don't have the time. The letter of the day works for two reasons. First is that it saves you time. You won't be spending precious minutes deciding which random guesses to make. And the second advantage is sneaky. If your letter of the day is D and you choose D again and again over the whole test, you have 25% chance that the correct answer will be D on any given question. The chance of guessing correctly decreases when you have varied responses. So by using the letter of the day, you're essentially locking in those correct answers. Before you start practicing on individual sections or question types, this is the kind of overall strategy that you need to maximize your success. You can also use process of elimination to rule out any answer choices that are wrong, and there are certain ways of reading questions are phased so that you can look out for. Of course, there's a lot more to breaking down any reading comprehension questions, but any answer choice that always uses extreme language like never, always, or all is probably a wrong answer. You should also be wary of answer choices that use phrases directly from reading provided. Remember, SAT writers want to trick you, and when you identify an exact phrase from the passage in the answer choice, you might think it's right. In fact, it's usually a trap. Just because it's in the passage doesn't mean it answers the question. You should also rule out anything that could be true but isn't explicitly stated in text. SAT clearly notes that you do not need outside information to answer reading questions. If it isn't in the passage, it cannot be a correct answer choice. And the most important thing to remember is in the reading section is that the answer you want may not be there. Multiple choice answers are not customizable features. You must select from what's on the rack. You might not find an answer choice you love, but it is still the best answer, maybe perhaps the least bad answer, but this is most likely the answer. So now we'll look at this question with the Desmos app. We have a long used strategy at the Princeton Review called plug in the answers. When you have a multiple choice math question asking to solve a single variable, you can take an answer choice and plug it into the equation in the question. We will always suggest starting with one of the middle options since choices go from smallest to largest. You can then eliminate multiple answer choices if it's wrong. On the digital SAT, you can plug the equation into the Desmos calculator. Looking at this example, where you plug the answer choice B into the calculator, you get the area of the rug in question, but you still need to know how to use Desmos. You must input the equation correctly, including the variable that an asterisk is multiplying while an x is the variable x. You must also actually put the equation in correct forms of the question to make sure you commit no transcription errors. The Desmos calculator is a huge benefit to you, but that makes it even more important to learn the best way to use it on the exam. If you're sorting out how to work the calculator on test day, you may not be able to focus on the task at hand, and that is answering as many math questions correctly as you can. Now, what's more important to us is how you can support yourself on your journey to your dream college.
So as Paloma mentioned, the digital SAT will have a built-in Desmos calendar, which students have used in our classes for several years. Students can also use an approved personal calendar. One big change in the digital SAT is that students will be able to use a calculator on all of the math questions. So it's important that our students learn when a calculator is useful and when it's not. Each student will have a visible timer within their digital test, so we teach students very effective strategies for pacing and timing in each module. Students will get a heads-up notification when they have 5 minutes left in each module. As in traditional paper and pencil tests, students will not be penalized for incorrect answers. You will only be awarded points for correct answers. So we make sure that our students know they should answer or at least guess on each and every question. Students in Princeton Review courses will become familiar with the new format of the test and will learn to understand how to work through each module, including new features in the digital SAT, like the ability to flag questions for review if you have time, to make notes on your test, and to mark out choices to eliminate wrong answers directly on the screen. Even though the test is digital, students will be provided with a scratch paper when they take the test. At the Princeton Review, we make sure that our students even learn how to use their scratch paper effectively.
Princeton Review has been preparing to support students and teachers. Here are a few of the features in our courses that will help students succeed. The Princeton Review has been preparing for the digital SAT since the College Board made their announcement. The test format may be new, but we're using our 42 years of test prep experience to support students as they adjust to the new format and apply brand new strategies. Whether you participate in any of our courses or with a tutor through Tutor.com, where you can get an online tutor 24 hours a day for test prep as well as academic support, we are here to assist you on your college-going journey. We hope the information you received this afternoon will be helpful as you prepare for your tests. Thank you for spending your evening with us. We hope you have a great day.